Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Objective. And you'll never believe this, but there's trouble in the Middle East. And we're going to be talking about if the new Israeli election results are actually a sign that things are going to become a little bit more stable in Israel, what it all means. So congratulations to all of the new House Parliament members, the new prime minister, Netanyahu. I've always said I hope he someday gets a chance to be prime minister. Finally, his dream came true. And I'm here with a guy who, thank God, knows a bit more than I do about all this. It's Israel's very own Boaz. How you doing?
Hi, Guy. Very good.
Very good. So everyone got sworn in. Do you swear them in over there, or is that just
Well,
the
it's
American
it's
way?
actually a very difficult negotiation. They took quite a long time, even though it was kind of full right, more cohesive government than the one before, and it was supposed to be simple. Netanyahu declared that he expect to announce his government in 2 weeks. It took, I believe, much longer, about 58 days only. So almost 2 months to announce the government, but we got a government. We got actually every second member of the coalition become to be either minister or substitute minister or something. So everybody got his chunk of the cake, and I can say in a general overview on the new government that first of all, it's more cohesive. This is true. It's more right-wing, religious, ultra-Orthodox, and we can expect it to hold a little bit longer than short-lived government of the past. And we can expect some change in policies, and this is to be seen.
What are some of those changes?
Well, I can tell you that, for example, Yariv Levin is the deputy prime minister trying to push back against what we call in Israel the legal revolution, or the legal tendency to take larger part of the weight of balance between the different arms of the Israeli administration, between government and the legal systems. We have a finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, who is very much hated by leftists and progressive, and he is, according to his own declaration, one of the most pro-free market when you don't touch the religion issues. He is a combination of free market and religion, which is kind of a toxic mix, but I guess much better for the free market than the combination that we had before. And we had energy minister who know his business, Israel Katz. This guy is not kidding usually. He have a nickname of bulldozer, somebody who push things through. He managed during his time as a transportation minister, he managed to push toward privatization of some of the part of the Israeli Port Authority, and to open the aviation lines for competition, to bring in charter flights and so on. In the Israeli stagnated economy, this was a big deal, and it's very possible that he will not take green bullshit as a substitute to real reliable energy. So this might be helpful in this respect. I can also manage, if I mention green policies, I can also mention that there is a change in the environmental protection agency. It's actually ministry in Israel. And right now in Israel, we have a very I would say, twisted policies in this ministry. It's mainly significant to hate toward the industry. You know, according to the Ministry of Environmental Protection, their own report, 97% of the pollutant in Israel created by agriculture, burning, and garbage and disposal handling. And this is 97% of the pollution, and the industry is responsible only for 3%. And most of the agenda, the media, the attention is against the industry, which come to show you that there is an hidden agenda behind it. And this might take a turn toward more rational policies. I don't sure, but it's very possible. And so on. I can also say something good about the Ministry of Communication. Well, you know, I'm mentioning name of ministries. The whole situation that we have about 30 ministers, it's crazy. I mean, you have ministry to every move that you like to take, and this is just come to show how bad the situation is. But given that, one of the friends of the Israeli freedom movement, Elad Malka, his name, is about to become the manager of the ministry. He's not going to be the minister, but he's going to take charge and manage the whole operational part of the Ministry of Communication. And this have importance in regard to free speech in Israel, because Israel traditionally was under a very tight control of media. The whole idea of broadcast was foreign to the early Israeli government, and the Israeli Broadcast Authority started from the Prime Minister office, David Ben-Gurion. It was part of his office, and it was also had to get a permission to broadcast certain news. And this changed through time, but still a private organization, a private radio station, and so on have a very difficult time in Israel. And this might get better now. And I'm optimistic in regard to Elad Malka activity in this ministry. So this is in general. I can tell you that there is some positive signs in this respect, a little bit more common sense, and some negative signs in regard to the rise of power of the ultra-Orthodox. This means more budget for stagnation, to finance intellectual stagnation, educational stagnation, and so on. So this is something that it's like, you know, kicking the can down the road. We will have to deal with it in the future of getting ever larger population, which are growing very rapidly comparing to other part of the Israeli population, the ultra-religious that have a very large family, sometimes 6, 7, 8, and more kids, and they don't get the basic education that train them to the skills of the modern world. And of course, you can carry it on your back when this is a minority and the majority are productive. But as the proportion of the population change and their part are growing, it's become more and more difficult, and it will break down sometime down the road. So this is something that will be pushed for a future treatment, I guess.
Yeah. And we got super chats from Marilyn and Jonathan Honig. Thank you. We're actually going to send Marilyn and Jonathan to Israel as
Yeah,
a
I'm looking
prize.
forward
Yeah.
to their visit. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody wants super chat for your chance to win a free round trip to the West Bank. I now even if the ultra Orthodox did study in a way that would help them earn a living one day, aren't they committing themselves to never work when they get an exemption from the military? Is that how it works?
Well, right now we have a crazy policy that as long as you are studying in the yeshiva, you are exempt from the army. So basically, this policy push young religious ultra-Orthodox to stay in the yeshiva even if they don't want to do that, and instead of going out and look for a living or working on doing something productive. And I guess that this gonna change. The whole policy of recruiting to the Israeli army is about to change, and I'm telling you that without any prior knowledge on a certain policy by one of the offices or the ministers. I'm telling you that because I know that about 10 years ago, 18% of the Israeli population supported the change and moving toward the all-volunteer army that will be a professional army. And today it's more than 50%. There is ever-growing movement and understanding that this model need to be changed. And instead of creating more unemployment and unproductiveness, it will have to be changed. So I'm very optimistic in this regard.
Yeah, and there's a lot of shame within the ultra Orthodox community with regards to secular education and work. It's like work is beneath these people, right? They're connecting directly with God and ideas. They're philosopher kings. What do they need?
Well,
to
you hear it especially from their leaders that actually lead them toward the doom. But you hear this statement of we are the real fighter for the security of Israel. Just pray harder, and this what protect us. And of course, this is in regard to security. This is in regard to work, and so on. God will provide, and all of this not going to work for much longer. And it will be changed. It's have to be changed. We will not be able to carry it on this burden. And so I expect it to be changed. And what I can tell you is, on the positive side, most of my time is not dedicated to dealing with Israeli politics, which is a futile activity. Most of my time, and just the other day, I've been in a center of gifted and excellent students in Ashkelon, in the south of Israel, center that give extra curriculum education by experts and scientists to very bright kids. And we visited there with our fellow objectivist, Dr. Michael Kaufman, that headed Karyopharm, a NASDAQ company, created few drugs, now managing some other companies and sitting in boards. And he gave the kids a lecture about the meaning of being entrepreneur and the values of Ayn Rand and the values of reason and purpose and self-esteem and believing in your goal and never give up in order to change the world, and these guys will do the work. And this was very, very well accepted with excitement. It was accompanied with books by Ayn Rand that were given to the kids in order to write essays. This is the exciting stuff, not the Israeli politics.
I mean, never give up. The Jews never lost sight of that dream of returning to Israel one day for a couple thousand years.
And reading Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged.
So, now the idea of overturning altruism might take 3,000 or 4,000 years, but never give up. We got a super chat from Michael. He says, the nationalists and socialists seem to be merging all across the Western world. Now, the nationalists in Israel tend to be more on the free market side. Is that right?
Yeah, well, they are a bit more on the free market sides. I mean, they got some element of the good Republican elements of the American ideas, but the ultra-religious are totally socialist, or at least kleptocrats. I don't know how to call them. I think they don't really care for the badge as long as you pump their money and you give them whatever they demand. So they didn't arrive to this level of defining themselves. Now, in regard to the general right-wing politicians, I would say that many of them are totally socialist, leftist in their economic agenda. They don't see the difference at all. And you cannot make any difference between there or a socialist counterpart of them. But some of them know better. And as I mentioned, there is few in a key position in the Israeli government that know better. So this gives me a little bit of hope.
Mm-hmm. Michael also asks, do you see Israel bombing Iran in the next 5 years?
Well, I'm afraid it's much more complicated than it was with Syria or Iraq. Israel actually had two raids on a nuclear project in the Middle East. One of them was in Osirak in Iraq during Begin time, and the second one was during Olmert time when the president was Bush at the time. Both of them done without any consent or asking permission, and they were just done, and that's it, and they clean it up. I mean, destroy the project. I believe that the Iranian project is very deep rooted. It will be much more difficult to take out. It will need more cooperation, and I don't see Israel getting the support, the backing, even the silent backing of the United States. And I don't see any allies that will be brave enough even to support quietly.
Is it more difficult?
I think it's going to be very difficult.
Is it that the Iranian project is more hidden, so it's harder for Israel to target?
It's more hidden. It's spread out. It's multiple sites. It's going to be much more difficult to take out than the other project that were one site, the first site, and it was destroyed as it started, even before it became operational.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe the young ladies in Iran will actually bring about a revolution.
I think they are braver than our politicians.
Oh, they're braver than a lot of people.
Yeah. And I salute them, and I really think that we should support them and encourage them. And this is the hope of, first of all, of the Iranian people and all the people of the Middle East that could live better without the threat of Iran.
Is Israel supporting the Iranian protesters?
I mean, there is Israeli radio that broadcasts with many Iranian exiles that actually broadcast the real news to Iran. And this is a very popular radio station. A lot of Iranians are going up on the air and talking there. And I guess there is some hidden support, but it's nothing that I know something for sure about.
Okay. Mary Aline with $2. Thank you. Then Bonnie, who's been a member for 7 months, says Boaz is the real fighter. Well, you hear that? Well, all you guys charging into Lebanon over there? It's Boaz who's the real. No, I'm kidding. It is. You are the real fighter.
Well, I've been there, but I don't see myself as I'm just having a good life, guys. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
We're defending them a little bit, but that's it.
James Taylor, the famous country singer with $5, asks, has Israel moved in a more free market direction since Bibi took power? I've heard a few interviews with him. He understands economics and markets. Well, he
Yeah,
may
well,
understand it, but is he implementing
yeah,
it?
exactly. Bibi understand it. He know how to say the right things. You could buy into it, you know. It's very easy because he's very compelling. He's super bright guy. And I heard him speak, you know, without a paper, giving speeches that were elegant and eloquent and great. But when it's come to maneuvering within the Israeli swamp and politics, the outcome sometimes be very muddy and mixed outcome. So, but I'm sure it might be a bit better than other government, but I don't know. But in general, and this is what I usually say when people ask about optimism or pessimism in regard to the Israeli politics and economics, Israel moving to a better direction in a steady pace, too slow for my taste, but you have to remember, guys, that we are super socialistic. We were socialistic country that glorified the idea of collective farms and kibbutzim and kept on bailing out all kind of government industries. And we did a real great change since then. And now a major part of the Israeli economy is high-tech, which is super competitive, actually standing in the front line of every industrial and technological development, and actually created one of the largest chunk of the companies on NASDAQ, is Israeli high-tech companies. And this is a growing part in Israel that attract a lot of young people, and I see them as the people who will pull us out of this mode.
Yeah. Michael with $5 asks, do the Israeli people still use capitalism as a dirty word? They did the last time I was there.
Well, it's in certain areas, yes, but I think we're getting better in this respect. I mean, the venomous hatred toward free market and capitalism is no longer around here. And of course, if you are leftist and so on, you will keep on pumping the old stories about capitalism that enslave you, of working long hours and so on, and maybe living long years and suffering from too long life that will be too long and too many distractions. but all of this is it's very superficial. It's very easy to show, and I think that the message of free market capitalism and individual freedom is taking root in Israel, and there is few years of work that the Israeli freedom movement did, other organizations did, and we see them. We see the seeds growing.
Free trade sent over 50 Swedish krones. I wish the Zionist settlers just went to Sweden. Wouldn't that be a great place?
Yeah.
They seem friendly over there. Beautiful people.
You know,
beautiful
there was a plan to build a Zionist country in island near Manhattan.
in
So this
America?
could be great, yeah.
It'd be like Long Island, like American Manhattan?
Somewhere there. I don't remember exactly the area, but there was a program to do it there. Another program to build it in Uganda. I never heard about a Swedish plan, but
it originated right here.
Yeah. And there is right now there is also a little Israeli colonies in different places, in Portugal, for example.
Oh.
Portugal opened their gates. They wanted to have new blood and more people to come, and they say everybody from the descendant of the exiles, the Jews that have been exiled in the year 500, is allowed to come back to Portugal, and some Israelis took advantage of it and bought some lands, property, and so on, and went on to settle in Portugal.
Wow. So yeah, the Swedish super chatter asks, I guess we talked about this. He goes, or she says, are people in Israel optimistic and supportive of the Iran protests? Is the government doing anything to support the dissidents / revolutionaries?
Well, Israelis are in general supporting freedom movements. They are supporting the Ukraine fight for freedom against the Russian. They supporting the Iranians, and but the government is either working under the radar or not. I cannot tell you much about it, but I feel, as I mentioned, our politicians are much less, are not brave as the Iranian women that protest or the Ukraine people that fight for the freedom. But the general tendency in the street is to support these movements.
Is Israel currently involved in like the Syrian region, or I saw
Yeah, I mean, there is ongoing campaign of target killing, bombing, and tampering with the establishment of Iran base in Syria. And the Iranians are basically, for many years, they established themselves by creating a proxy organization like the Hezbollah in Lebanon and the Hamas in Iran, in Gaza, and supplying them with weapons, rocket technology, whatever they could, in order to create partners for their fight of liberating the Middle East from all kind of little devils and big devils and so on. So Israelis keep working on rooting out all these Iranian elements. So you hear from time to time there was a bomb near Damascus, or near the airport, or near the port, or whatever. So this is an ongoing campaign.
Mm-hmm. So there seem to be some parallels with the American situation and the Israeli one. Kind of a right-wing populism on the rise, perhaps, and the inability or the difficulty in getting the government set up, sounds like, might be similar to Republicans trying to elect a speaker in the House. And in recent years, some of the creepier, like nastier elements of American culture have entered politics in a way that they weren't really before. So someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't think could have been elected 10 years ago. You have Ben Gvir. He's like what's his, he's like a settler. He's like really he's very aggressive.
Well, he built himself as a right-wing provocator.
Mm-hmm.
And as ultra right that manage himself on the verge of legality. But I think that through the years he's settled down a little bit, and in the last election he got a lot of votes that you wouldn't expect anybody to get from people that were totally opposite to his view, because he gave the promise of increased security in Israel. And in Israel, people suffer from Bedouin running all kind of criminal racketeers in the south of Israel, and agriculture theft and burning and vandalizing, and people felt that we lost one of the major part that we expect the government to provide us is with security, with internal security. And this is basically the promise of Ben Gvir. How much he can do, I doubt. But maybe it's going to be easy. In Israel, as much as we sound is very kind of Wild West, that people fight to save their life if there is a terror attack and so on. It was difficult, and when somebody pulled out a gun in order to defend his life, he had to go through through a criminal process and humiliation, and it was sometimes very deterring. And you knew that you not only have to stand in front of terrorists, you also have to stand in front of the law that sometime will hunt you down, or at least make your life very difficult for a while. So at least this tendency might change. People got sick of it. And this is one of the reasons that Ben-Gvir got to become more popular, much more than his real weight. So we'll see how he will perform. But I can tell you that he got more votes in places that nobody expect him to get votes from.
Yeah, in January of 2020, Ben-Gvir agreed to remove a picture he had hanging up of Baruch Goldstein. That's the person who in 1994 entered a mosque and shot up a bunch of people.
Yeah, this is a Jewish terrorist. This is a Jewish terrorist that was kind of Ben-Gvir consider him as a role model. Maybe deep in his heart he still feels something like that, but we will see how he perform. Of course, he cannot express these views in the Israeli parliament or can act according to it.
Yeah, so Israelis in general were very horrified by what Goldstein did back then, right? The biggest demonstration ever was condemning Goldstein.
Yeah, I mean, let's say contrary to the Arab Street, that after every terror attack, people are
giving out
giving
candy,
away sweets and celebrating. It's happened after 9/11, and it's keep happening every time something that stands for freedom is hit by a terror attack. So counter to this, in the Israeli street doesn't support terror and appreciate the value of life and individual rights. And I think that Ben-Gvir will have to fall in line in this within these parameters.
But it is scary that someone like that could get as far as he's gotten in politics, because he should be completely unelectable. He should be the kiss of death to anyone who associates with him.
This is true, and this is also true about Derry, the head of Shas, that was found guilty in embezzlement, in different court trials, and was not supposed to be somebody in charge of the Israeli politics or the Israeli treasury. And he is supposed to become substitute finance minister, which is the most crazy twist of Israeli politics. We'll see if it happens, but this is also create a lot of resignation and criticism within Israel.
Yeah. Well, that's that about, I think, sums it up. Unless there's anything you want to add, we could wind it down. I don't see any more super chats. But yeah, I've been all over Israel as a kid. I was in Ashkelon. I was in this beautiful place, my favorite. I'm looking forward to returning. Aza, it was called. Yeah, had a lot of fun there as a kid one time. Looking forward.
You know that the guys in Sderot, which is border with Gaza, this is one of the most rocketed cities of the world. This is the rocket capital of the world. They have in the middle of Sderot, they have a pile of rockets that they gather from all the good stuff that the Gazans are throwing on them. So these guys, before we let Yasser Arafat enter this area and establish the Palestinian Authority, they used to go to do shopping for the weekend, for the Shabbat in the Gaza market. And there was no border. I mean, people from Gaza could go to Sderot and people from Sderot could go to Gaza, and there was a business relation and free movement, and it was it was a paradise comparing to what they got now and what the Gazan have to suffer now. So, so I think that if we look on a process, on the wrong decision that we took, and by giving authority to murderers and corrupt politicians, we may do it better next time when we'll deal with negotiation for peace.
Yeah. Okay, well, coming up today at 7 p.m. UK time, it's the Briefly Objective premiere with me on the philosophy of Andrew Tate. Wow, that's nice. And then at 10 p.m. UK time, it's Life on Earth with Robert Nasser on The Secret. I think that's a book. So yeah, are you guys in Israel keeping up with Andrew Tate versus Greta Thunberg? This is pretty must be very prominent.
I'm sorry. I'm not aware of the major conflict and the two intellectual giants that are battling there. Mm-hmm. But I will, of course, keep track and learn from the coming program.
Tate converted to Islam in recent months. I was hoping he would find the Jewish faith to be for him. He could not have 4 wives, but other than that, he could have all the extremist intensity and dogmatism of religion, maybe without some of the violence.
Well, you can say something good about Islam from the perspective of Greta, and this is the most Islamist state are moving backward toward the lower carbon footprint, which is nice. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And once you see the world through that prism of like who's impacting the environment least, then it's no surprise that the left is so anti-Israel.
You see Lebanon, for example, they have no electricity, no gasoline, no petrol. It's actually the green dream coming through.
Oh yeah, absolutely right. Okay, well, on that uplifting note, one last question. So I was born in Israel, left. I haven't been there since I was 13 years old. I'm going to visit when I'll be 36 later this year. Do you think I'm going to be arrested? Do you think I need a lawyer there waiting for me? Can you give me some legal advice, or do you not really know?
Well, I think you'll be fine, and I think we will have a great time hosting you.
Oh, really? You don't think I should even worry about this? Just go and see what happens?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You heard it here, everybody. I don't know if I'm due for some military service. All right. And Robert with the $2 says, good show. Well, thank you. And thank you, Boaz. Thank you for joining us. And everybody, get out there and visit Israel while you can. But if you were born there and you're under 25, might want to consult with your legal team first. Thank you all. We'll be back tomorrow for the Daily Objective, and goodbye.